All right, all right, all right. Hello, good evening, Mr. and Mrs. America and all the ships at sea. Well, you were at the Butchershop. Get some cornbread and a beer and pull up to the radio or wherever how you're listening to this, and we're going to take it to the limit tonight. I'm going to begin this with a disclaimer, though. While discussing this topic with my partner, Brother Theo, yesterday, one issue became paramount, and I want to say that racism has no part in what you're about to hear tonight. Playing the race card will not help you at this table. Thanks to our friends in the People's Republic of China, this is now a game of craps. In the early part of this year, we were thrust into a fight for survival. For all the scientific data, the political intrigue, the countless theories, the fact remains that over in Wuhan, somebody left the door open and the wrong dog came home. We have all gleaned the news, washed our hands, and watched the body count over our morning coffee, and even the slowest among us realized that the new normal was here to stay. Let me introduce myself, first of all. I am Wilbur Witt, Jr. My friend Robert Beatty keeps reminding me to include my lines, so I will try to comply. When you find my publications, you'll find them under the pen name of Bill the Butcher, and Ted's name is Brother Theo. I have written 3,000 songs, 5 books, 14,000 articles, and I have a high school diploma from Killeen High School, which is about as ignorant as you can be, and they still let you drive a car. I appear on radio and TV worldwide, American Voice Radio, Raging Elephants Radio, PSN, right here at Global, and others too numerous to count. I am one of the founders of the Butchershop, along with my writing business partner of 45 years, Brother Theo, and we put articles and insight every day, 7 days a week. Contributors to the Butchershop range from London to L.A. I count among my friends the amazing Doc Green, Miss Crystal Larimore, the Apostle Claver Kalayamani, and I've also been invited to appear on Tommy's Garage with Ted, and I do all this as long as he does too, from a kitchen table in beautiful downtown Killeen, Texas. Now we got all that out of the way, I'd like to address an issue that brought us here today. Over the years, I've been used to a lifestyle. During our growth as a business, we acquired 4 houses. The one where I'm currently at right now, 3 more in Georgetown in Texas, at a golf course in a community called Berry Creek. For those with inquiring minds, feel free to check out the Williamson County records, and you'll see it. While conducting our real estate business in Killeen, we built 4-plex apartments. And if you drive down Stan Sleater Loop in Killeen between 195 and Clear Creek Road, you will be hard-pressed to see a 4-plex that we didn't build. You're welcome. When the Rona insinuated itself into our society, my family and I were doing what we've always done. We have homes up in Utah, and we fly between Austin and Salt Lake City on a fairly regular basis. That was until the present situation started booking our flights for us. Back in Berry Creek, we had guests. There was a main house and 2 others on Oak Tree Drive, so God knows we had guest quarters. And the guests were artists from Austin, real estate professionals, with one of my sons being a deputy sheriff, a pretty fair sprinkling of law enforcement who graced the house on weekends. The parties would extend to the backyard, and after the golfers would play through at the end of the day, we would adjourn to the 10th green, which bordered our property. In most cases, we would take our guests to the Berry Creek Country Club on Sunday for breakfast. I became used to this lifestyle, and I assumed that this was the way civilized people behaved. This is until George Bush II fixed the economy. Wall Street tanked, and our stocks became less valuable than that package of toilet paper you found yourself fighting over in the supermarket during March of 2020. During the years between 2010 and 2015, we were busy picking up the pieces and trying to glue them back together. We began to recover and replace the property holdings to the point where we now have more than we lost. Now, I'd like to point out, when I say we, I mean the family, not I. I am a desert rat, and money makes me nervous. Come on now. I'm a writer. All writers have idiosyncrasies. Well, that's mine. I grew up in Killeen. Well, moreover, I grew up in Simmonsville. And we were so poor, we thought the people on welfare had government jobs because they always had a check. My ambition at the age of 12 was if I could become adept at stealing hubcaps, I could eventually work my way up to stealing cars. So in February of this year, I ended up living in Killeen by my damn self. Now, being alone doesn't bother me. Another thing you need to know about writers, or rather writers that get published, they tend to have vast amounts of solitude. They don't write at parties. I can't write like that because I'm always wearing out the bar. And it's hard to find a place to write when you can't find the door. So hours of sitting alone figured right into my business model. Then they showed up. By they, I'm referring to the incredible amount of street people, of which Killeen seems to have an abundance. My one son, oh God, I must really run the DNA on that kid someday. There's no way he sprang from my loins. Anyway, well, he's a meth head, which seems to be the drug of choice in this hamlet. And all of his associates seem to follow that suit. Well, I don't want to refer these people as his friends, because to be a friend, you have to have an amygdala, which is not required equipment needed to hang out at the game rooms here in Killeen. It started with his girlfriend, then her friends, their friends, and before it was all said and done, my home looked like Mother Teresa's waiting room, and they all had opinions and rights. By the grace of God and the penal code, my son went back to prison. I'll always remember him as he was. I even picked up some of the lingo, so valuable to a writer, things like toomba, which translates to talking about, like, what's your toomba? Also the protocol when you get a call from the Bell County Jail. Instead of a hello, you're getting a, what's going on? What's going on? They always seem to be concerned with events on the outside, and they'll all tell you that they're a shot caller. That's street language for Godfather. However, none of them are enough of a shot caller to just walk out of that jail. So there I was, son in jail, up to my ears in this health crisis, with a house full of people that can't afford a bus ticket to the city limits. So what do? Well, going back to the years at Berry Creek, I always try to look on the sunny side of the street. There was this one girl, let's call her, Jessica, 20-ish, fairly clean, talks like a UT student on her way to physics class. And that was until she stole my gun, some porcelain out of one of my cabinets, and ran off with her boyfriend, who shall remain jobless. Let me tell you, folks, that my fair lady, she was not. That only left 10 or 12 guests that streamlined things by crawling through my windows at night while I was asleep to crash and smoke. And they all hung out at the game rooms, and they all claimed to be shot callers. Well, to make a long story short, my wife from Salt Lake finally stepped up to the plate and sent in a real shot caller. Her name's Carol, who explained to the brethren how the real world works in great detail. Oh, and by the way, Carol is one of our old homegirls from back in the day at Berry Creek. So all the shot callers started marching down their own trail of tears. We cleaned up the house, fed the dogs, the sun came out, the angels sang, and the skies again were blue. But there remains some business that needed to be tended to. Like I said, I currently live in Killeen. I live in a neighborhood called Turtle Bend, and Turtle Bend is unique as far as Killeen goes. Killeen is a military town, and it only goes to say that it's largely transient. Soldiers come, soldiers go. Turtle Bend is a seasoned place where there are rental houses here, houses, not apartments. Most folks are retired and were actually raised here among the winding streets that are all named after fish. When my guests were shown the door, they took one look at my neighbors and thought it was their birthday. Suddenly, Turtle Bend had a crime rate. If you look at the little red dots on the crime map, it looked like we had the measles. My neighbors are struggling through this right now. I'm not telling anyone how to run their house, but I'm going to tell them how I run mine. In my opinion, the breeding ground for this issue is the game rooms. The problem is currently being addressed by the Commission's Court here in Bell County. First off, I only have select visitors. There's Carol, of course, my partner, Ted, Ernest, who's in the National Guard, and Greg, when he can get up here, who is highly placed in the Texas Child Protective Services. Of course, if a neighbor taps on the door and needs something, I will be accommodating. I learned many things after my guests departed. They subscribed to Bob Dylan's song that says, when you got nothing to lose. Verily, verily, I say unto thee, if you give one of these people a bowl of soup, they will steal the spoon. Also, convenience is a big factor in your safety. After I secured my house, I noticed each morning my garage door was up. I was perplexed, believing I had the only opener. Au contraire, you can download an app and go merrily skipping down the street, opening as many garage doors as your heart desires. Solution? There is a way, depending on the brand, to disable the ability of the garage door opener to respond to any signal from an outside source. Only the hardwired unit from inside the garage will work. To leave my house, I start my car, open the garage door, pull my car out, go back in through the garage, closing the door from the inside process, exit out the front door, locking it. When I return, I simply reverse the process. Convenience is your enemy. Oh, and let us not forget gaslighting. That's where somebody changes little things or plants little hints here and there to make you become anxious. Things like a popsicle stick at your front door or a cigarette butt in your mailbox. Just a little something to let you know they're thinking about you. Check your mail. I have a Ring doorbell application on my door. I have it set to maximum range, so any person, dog, cat, bird, or more importantly, large vans such as FedEx, UPS, or a mail truck will set it off. When I see the delivery of any kind, I get up right then. I don't wait. The predators will follow these vehicles and will steal your items while you finish your cigarette. Another good reason to monitor your mailbox is these people go up and down the street regularly from house to house stealing mail. With the right bank or credit card statement, they can boost your account. And you wake up in the morning with $2.75 to your name. And don't tell me how secure you are. I've been there and done that. Dance with the ones who brought you. This means your neighbors. Report all suspicious activity. Profile. Yeah, I just said that. If you see a stranger in your neighborhood at 3 in the morning, call the cops. The neighbors will thank you for it. Forget about this freedom of this or that. We can worry about that when we're not checking the body count every morning for breakfast. There are many other things that I've learned, and you will begin to learn them too. It will logically come to your mind as it gets older and older. The next few months are going to be harder than the last few months, but we will survive. When I was in the desert, I came out of an RV one day, and there was an old biker with a grill set up in a pit that he dug in the sand. On the grill was a blue steel coffee pot. Want some coffee, he asked? I told him that would be nice, and he poured me some coffee in a metal cup. You like cream and sugar? I assured him I did. He raised his cup to his lips and said reflectively, yeah, me too. I just lost Berry Creek and millions of dollars. I don't know what had driven him into the desert. All I know is that we were two old men, and like the title to the movie says, this is no country for old men. Now, I'm not bitter. I hold no animosity toward these people who robbed me, stole my food, disrespected me. But clean is the great equalizer, and karma roams the streets at night. I will do them no harm. But in the words of Mark Twain, I will read their obituaries with a great deal of enthusiasm. Ted, come in here.
Well, you said a lot. But I can't help but think back to the first thing you said. The first thing you said was that playing the race card was not something that was pertinent to the audience, to the article. And I'm wondering why you said that. Why that?
Well, I was alluding to when I brought up this idea yesterday. The original idea was full of words like homeboys and homegirls and thugs and all that. And I truly wanted people to know the people that came down on me and wrecked up my house were multicolored. I mean, a complete swath of the American experience. And so it had nothing to do with it. And I didn't want to alienate any of the audience thinking, well, he's just talking about black folks or he's just talking about Mexicans. No, the two kids that stole my gun were white, okay? The one girl that came through here that actually did keep the house halfway clean was a black chick. So you can't go that route and say, well, they're all like this, they're all like that. What's happening now is we're entering into a new realm. Please continue.
Well, I don't know. It got me to thinking about the kinds of people that I've encountered out walking in your neighborhood. Philly's neighborhood is very pleasant to walk in. It has sidewalks. Not all neighborhoods have sidewalks in Central Texas. And so I get out and I walk in his neighborhood and I meet people. And I'd say across the board, racially, I've made about the same number of acquaintances, probably a couple more Hispanics than anybody else, but that's just because there's a lot of upper middle class Hispanics living in your neighborhood. I mean, it's just a function of there being more of them than anybody else. But I imagine that a black person who's raising a kid or two, raising a family over there, not more than a half a mile from that high school, would definitely be the kind of citizen that appreciated police participation and wanted police surveillance. That they're not shady people. That they too have houses to protect and people inside of them to watch over and belongings they have to keep intact in order to get the job done. So, if there's any kind of backlash in the minds of listeners as they listen to Billy talk about this, and which I don't think you've leaned very heavily on the thug life as a description of what the threat that we're facing is going to be. We're facing one of two threats, and that is either destabilization from within, and then your homeboy scenario. This scenario where let's face it, folks. Yes, darling. Okay, thank you very much. Much thanks.
You're welcome.
It begins to take on some strength and some solidity because the threat from the inside will involve people who are out on parole or should be on parole but are currently evading their parole officer, and those people are people from prison, and it's not our. I didn't have anything to do with the shaping of an inmate, of your typical inmate, as being a homeboy type. That has come entirely from the people who go to prison. They go to prison and they have to take on that persona. And when they come out, they got to live in a society where that persona is tattooed all over their body. There's no way that, in other words, that's society really never lets go of you once you go to prison. And they do have to dance with the ones that brung them. They can't go back to their parents' house. They can't, there's nowhere else for them to go. And they can't go back to the halfway house. If they go back to the halfway house, their parole officer is gonna revoke them on the spot and send them back to prison. So, because they haven't showed up. So I would say that anybody in their right mind right now is keeping a real close eye on their mailbox. Anybody in their right mind is keeping a real close eye on the environs around their house. Are you the kind of person who leaves your house every day? Do you leave it attended for that period of time? Do you have cameras up at your house? Do you have security up? Do you have ADT or something like that? And if the answer to that is no, then you need to do something about becoming more secure, because the test is coming, and which leads us to the second threat that we may be facing, which may not be homeboys at all. The threat may come from within and without. In other words, we may be facing something like a civil war. Now, I never would have dreamed that this could be true. I never would have, but I've never really seen Trumpists in full out voga, which is always never term for when a monster becomes their full monster self. A half human, half monster becomes their full monster self. I've never seen one. I've never seen a Trumpist come out and go full Trump. But my God, when they do, they are utterly unreasonable. That you simply you cannot have a reasonable conversation with them.
Absolutely, I totally agree with that. And I'm the Republican part of this, folks. And I have an associate that I talk to in North Carolina all the time, and she has gone flat out crazy. I ain't even going to sugarcoat it. Flat out crazy. She asks me political advice all the time. I give her the best I have. And when the vote was coming up on November 3rd, I was telling her it's close. It is close. Okay. There's several issues going on right now. The pandemic is bad. This is bad, but then the economy seems to be improving. So you really can't call this thing as accurately as you could before. And she appeared, oh, well, yeah, I know that. But when it came out like it did, she went nuts. And like my friend Juan says, I ain't going to lie to you, man. She wants to shoot up Washington, D.C., burn down the Capitol building, burn her trailer down, run to Canada. They're organizing militias. I mean, all this. But I am in total agreement with Ted. We studied a class tonight right before coming on the air of the possibilities of a civil war, which I didn't buy into before, but how the country would divide up, where the resources will come from, where the support from other nations supporting which faction will come from, and how the end of the Civil War will be that California, New York, places will secede from the Union, and they'll form their own union, which will weaken the United States. Now, the good news is that I studied that, and I did some research right before we came on. Texas did not take a hit during the Civil War #1. The Union Army did not invade us. In fact, they bivouacked on Galveston Island after the war until we said, okay, y'all can come in now. All right, simple as that. Now, Ted and I disagree sometimes politically, but I guarantee you Texas is, as far as that, is in unison. When they come over the Red River, you'll see Democrats and Republicans in Texas sharing ammunition. We're not going to let them come down here and take us over. Then we'll fight about everything else later, but we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let that happen. But it does look like it might not be a full-fledged civil war, but it will be an insurrection, what we call an insurrection. And at this point, and I'm not saying this to scare anyone or to get you upset or anything, there's going to be some altercations over this. Right now, President Trump, and we all know, Giuliani, when he's not on the ventilator, he's going to be going from court to court and getting thrown out. And in my political opinion, I don't think that President Trump is going to prevail in this. I don't think.
I think they're going to. He hit 50 yesterday, and I don't think they're going to let him do it more than that. I think 50 is enough. I think 50 challenges is enough.
It's getting ridiculous, okay? And I think less than a week, the Electoral College is going to cast this vote. And folks, in a sane, normal environment, that's the end of the story right there. When they do that, they say, okay, see, we are not a democracy, okay? We're going to give a little history lesson here. We are not a democracy.
Well, no.
You don't vote.
We're not even that. We're a corporation. Are you kidding me? Yeah. We're just a corporation. That's what we are. And we're owned partially by people that speak through Democrats and partially by people who speak through Republicans. And right now, the people who speak through Republicans have a louder voice than those who speak through Democrats. But in time, that will shift, as the market shifts. This is really about what's going to be doing really good in the markets in the future. Now, we know that tech, both biotech and regular tech, are going to do really, really well in the market. This is just something you don't have to be the prophet from Omaha, you
dodged that bullet pretty good. Keep going.
Yeah, I thought I did pretty good there. Warren Buffett to predict this. It's very clear. All right, we tried mistake number one, and that was Trump. That was mistake number one. Now, they gave us mistake number one and mistake number two back in 2016. So now we tried mistake number one, and we barely got away from that with our lives, with our skin on intact. But it's not over yet, folks, because welcome to the platform for getting on the ride to mistake number two, which is just going to be Hillary. It's just going to look a whole lot like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. But it's going to be Hillary. She's going to be, she will be running our State Department from outside. She won't be in the State Department, but all her people will be there. And we all know that the Democrats' version of foreign policy turns on trade, whereas the Republicans' foreign policy turns on war. And I, for the life of me, I don't guess I'll live to see the end of mistake number two, because I'm 68, and the way I live my life, for me to live to be 72 would be recordable in some instrument like the Bible. Forget the Guinness Book of World Records. I would think I don't think I'll live to see the end of mistake number two. But the problem is that as you look further along, as you look further forward, you can't see anything but this constantly shifting melange of things. I know for a fact that we would have no trouble living in places like Monaco, letting the rest of us just work in garbage pits for nothing or next to it, just what it takes to sustain us and whatever they can make off of us, and while they live on what we made. Listen, whole families can. This is something nobody ever thinks about. Nobody ever thinks about. Well, we got these royal families. They're big royal families, and they keep having kids. You ever notice? When Donald Trump was elected, as far as we knew, there was Don Jr. and that girl. And then the next thing you know, the guy's got a paddy wagon full of kids. We still don't know who all of them are. He's got a potload of kids, and every time those people come up with kids, now we're talking about a separate trust fund. Now we're talking about a separate $25 or $40 million that has to be set aside for the maintenance of that kid, and making sure that kid gets into the right university and that kid has the right, has the right opportunities in their adult life, like being on the board at Pepsi and GM. Maybe not at the same time, but
Well, of course, we can't have those companies, not being led or anything like that. But I said something when we were discussing this show yesterday. I said that there's them and there's us. Now, if you don't know what the difference between them and us is, here's the difference. Think stimulus package, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
Stimulus package. Now, boys and girls, if you're not in the bathroom with a paper towel and a dirty magazine, you're not going to get stimulated, okay? Because they cut that $12 million out. Yeah,
in fact,
that out.
If you can be said to belong to us, you're not in that stimulus package. I guarantee it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's where we're going. It's just and we're fighting. If you accept the fact that we are leaning toward this insurrection I spoke of earlier, we're fighting Hitler's war. Right, what we're doing. We're fighting Hitler's war right now.
Yeah.
On two fronts. We got the Rona on one side, and we've got the economy on the other.
And they can ratchet either one up.
And they've ratcheted them. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Now, that's what's going to make the people that we spoke about earlier in the broadcast, the street people, I call them street people, but they don't do anything for a living. They steal. That's what they do. That's what they do. They steal. They depend on society to give them the things they need. In other words, they go to their game room, they make their plans, they glom onto a host and bleed them dry, or they kick in the door or whatever. But they have to have a host. They have to have that. As
they
we
do.
Circle the wagon, as we circle the wagons, and they can no longer get into all the homes, they can no longer conpel, all kinds of things. They're going to get hungry, and ladies and gentlemen, they can't feed themselves. They can't do it.
Well, that's when you got to watch out for the wolves, who are wandering around in town, because they'll snatch a kid.
Right.
You got to. It's time to. As time goes by, it's not time to relax your vigilance. It's time to ratchet it up, because this.
Exactly.
The danger's not going to be over for a long time.
Oh no.
Not as long as
and you watch these COVID numbers, and everybody gets panicky and everything. Ted and I knew this was coming. When everybody ignored all the good advice and they just had to get on that plane or had to go over to visit these, and we both said, "Here it comes, here it comes." And it
made me mad, because that guy Mike Lee, he ran off a perfectly good Republican in Morris Udall, or was it John Sununu? I can't remember. It was I think it was Udall, the guy who we primaried out of his position. He'd been a Republican citizen a Republican senator from Utah, the senior Republican senator from Utah, for a really long time. And so what happens? There are a group of Republicans that are sane. These are sane people, but mainly because they go back a long way, and they've all been a governor at one time or another. They've all had to govern something big, something that was consequential too, and upon which many lives depended. And those people who spoke from a position of governance have all managed to get themselves fired during the Trump administration, and also leading up to it. I mean, George W. Bush presided over. Reince Priebus was a very focused man, and I look to see him back in the Republican Party. I'm sure he's still riding high up there in the Republican Party. I've met that guy, and I've met some of his cronies in bars in Georgia, and listened to them talk. And they have the situation well in hand. If you're a Republican, then you should be happy about the future, because the future is going to work out well for you. You can't lose the election now, so that's the good side. But the real danger for you as a Republican is the Trumpists, because you know it yourself. You've seen it yourself. Now like most people, you probably stick to your own kind. You probably stick to people who are like you. But I'm here to tell you that your party is eat up with Trumpists, and these are not people with whom you can reason. It's like a science fiction movie. I'm not kidding you. It really is. They will stop at nothing when it comes to sacrifice to promote their agenda of all I can say, I think of it as just pure hatred. It looks like pure hatred to me. I just hear hate rhetoric all the time coming out of that camp. Hate.
Yeah, it's like when I tried to talk to that lady, I said, look, you need to stop concentrating on these court hearings. Stop it. What you've got to do is what we're trying to do down here right now. We admit that we're probably going to lose this battle, but we've got to preserve the party. We've got to preserve, we in Texas worry about things that people in other states don't have to worry about. I have a concern about Joe Biden. Joe Biden, from what I think, he's going to turn our oil pumps off, start getting oil and gas from the Prince of Saudi Arabia, and all you nice folks on the East Coast are going to get to pay $5 a gallon for gas. Thank you very much. Ted and I, when we were in high school, from that point on until just about 3 years ago, the oil pumps in West Texas were frozen in place. They weren't pumping anything. And all of a sudden, they got turned back on. And that's why you go to the gas pump now, and it ain't nowhere near $5 a gallon, or $4, or even $3, because you're burning Texas gas. And don't let anybody tell you any different. All these experts on YouTube and all that. Oh, well, it's no, it's Texas gas, butthole. We have more oil in Texas than all the countries combined in worldwide, except for Russia. We have a hell of a lot more gas in Saudi Arabia and everything, and we can pump it, and we can put it on them pipelines and get it to you. And if you don't believe that, about 3 or 4 years ago, we sprung a leak in the Baytown pipeline that runs up to the East Coast. A leak. And the president declared a national emergency for the East Coast. One leak out of one town in Texas got y'all into a national emergency. And we don't need those gas pumps turned off. We don't need it. The one thing that Trump did that I do agree with 100%, stop depending on foreign energy. Because when the sheiks sit down and say, the face of Allah, let's raise the price of oil $2 a barrel. Allah will bless us tomorrow. Well, that goes right in your pocket, right there, right there. All we want to do is sell you gas. That's it, and as cheaply as possible. We can get down to $1 a gallon. Hey, more power to you. You know, that's the part I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the wall. I'm not worried about was Kamala Harris a Chinaman or is she black? I'm not worried about any of that. And that's another thing. Oh God,
she is from India. Okay.
India. Okay.
Her mother was from India, and her father was I think Jamaican, or maybe
Asian thing comes.
Haitian.
You bring up the word Asian.
Well, because if you come from the Indian subcontinent or India, then you're considered to be from Asia Minor.
Oh, now I know. Well, they all look alike anyway. Anyway, they grabbed you. Yeah. Anyway,
I'm gonna tell you, I can pick Buddha out of a lineup. You know, as long as you don't put somebody like Hoti on there. Now you put Hoti in there, and well, you know, the patron saint of all bartenders and fortune tellers. So
that was the main thing. The lady was screaming the loudest about that. Biden's gonna die real quick, and Kamala Harris is gonna come take my trailer, and she meant it. Crazy, just like you said, Ted. Crazy. I said,
yeah, cannot reason with them at all. And they will adopt an attitude, a physical attitude of attack when they're in other words, they're gearing up for a fight. They're actually gearing up for a fight because somebody brought up politics in the room, and somebody in the room.
Don't bring up no goddamn politics. Don't do that. Don't even bring up who's running for dog catcher. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, I just the problem that I have the most is when I look into what I know are eyes that have shown every human emotion that there is to show, including, I'm sure, hate, and see nothing but hatred for me out of somebody that I never met in my life, but because I said that what Trump was doing was damaging to the post office, and damaging the post office was like damaging anything else that belonged to America. It was wrong. My God, I thought I'm really going to have to draw my weapon and fire it in anger. I thought that I'm going to get this. It really made me rethink carrying my gun, because these people carry guns too, and if what happens if I get how am I going to explain that to the cop that shows up? They go, well, the guy on the floor that's dead there, he reached for his gun, and I just got to mine quicker. That's not going to that's really not going to make the day come out much better. I don't think one way or the other. I still think it's going to be a pretty crappy day, with many to follow.
Yeah. And this is this is the lines of demarcation, ladies and gentlemen, that we're in right now. This is why we're talking like we're talking. We're trying to get you to stop, think, and consider. All elections are screwed up. You can't possibly count that many votes and it not be screwed up, okay? It all boils down to the Electoral College. It all boils down to that simple fact. And whoever wins, they just won. They just won. That's it. There's no reason for all this hubbub. And just like Brother Theo said earlier today, even when this is over, next week when the Electoral College meets and they cast their vote, it's not going to be over because you've got the Trump supporters. Save your paper money, boys. The Republicans will rise again, and wow.
It gives me some small satisfaction to hear you use that term, Trump supporters. As much as I heard you. Go ahead.
Damn truth. It's the damn truth. It's almost like a religious thing. It's almost like a cult. It really is. Oh, and that's the other thing that was brought up to me. God will intervene. God's going to come down, and he's going to strike with a mighty sword and strike Joe Biden down and everything. Yes, and doggone deep.
Yeah, see, I want anybody that I always try to communicate. Look, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is a bad person and should be arrested or persecuted or anything like that, because personally, I feel like we'd be in just as bad a place if Hillary had been president as we are right now. It's just that it would be a different. It would be just as bad, but it would be a different kind of bad. In other words, just switch, yes, to an alternate dystopian future, where there aren't any jobs, and we've proceeded on to automation, and everybody's sort of been put on notice that there's not going to be any more money. And Hillary is the kind of person who would personally go down to Wall Street and help to organize and head up REITs, whose only job it was to collect property from people who could no longer afford to pay their taxes because their fixed incomes or their job money had run out, and oversee the transfer of property into these REITs so that they could be disposed with quickly. And that money gotten out into the market, because this is their desire. Their desire, the desire of the market, which is the if you want to, everybody, the Supreme Court says that the corporations are people, so we'll just call Wall Street a person. Wall Street is doing its dead level best to get it down to the point where every penny on the planet is in the market, so that we can wind up with a no joke, dyed-in-the-wool king of the world. If you look at algorithms and what their purposes are, and you start leaning towards the idea of an overarching algorithm, what other kind of overarching algorithm could there possibly be?
Well, there can't, and people don't understand Wall Street. In my opening monologue, I mentioned what we lost during the last part of the Bush administration, and mentioned stocks. People, they think that the corporations on the Dow own the stocks, and that's not true. They have an initial public offering, which is an IPO, and the public buys the stock, and that money goes to the corporation and boosts them up. But when I got 10 shares of IBM, and says, I sure would like to buy that 10 shares of IBM you got, and everything. That money don't go to the corporation. That's the Dow. Okay, that's the Dow. When Apple hits the top of the mountain and everything, that has nothing to do. That affects the price of the stock, but that has nothing to do with the success of the company. It really doesn't. It's an indicator, but that's about it. It's just an indicator.
I have worked for companies, briefly. I've worked for companies who themselves were absolutely worthless, but their stock was going way up because everybody was selling it off. So they couldn't sell off the company's property fast enough to keep up with the sale of the company itself as a whole. It finally, when it got down to maybe three major players in the market holding just about all the company for these stocks, what would happen is that there'd be some kind of an alliance formed, and then there'd be a slowdown or maybe even a dead stop of selling the company's property, and you see the board meet, and you see them take stock options away from people and fire people from the board, and because God knows nobody's better at breaking up companies and selling them than, say, Mitt Romney, He's very dispassionate about it when he does it.
Well, it's like you said, worthless stock. It brought Bravo. A few years ago, Robert Vogan talked me and Wilbur into buying a bunch of Bravo stock. I ended up with 3 million shares, and it was
Of the original Bravo?
Yeah, Bravo. It was
the original Bravo?
No.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. I think because the original Bravo is Comcast. I'm thinking.
Milk, it was a chocolate milk that tasted like a Snickers bar, right?
Yeah.
And, that's going to work. And when it all was said and done, Wilbur called me. This thing called me and said, "Dad, you ever heard the phrase not worth the paper it's printed on?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, Bravo stock ain't worth the ink it takes to print the paper." There's kids in California who are rolling joints with Bravo stock paper right now, okay? That's how bad it was. And they finally just did away with it. It didn't come across my ticker anymore or anything like that. And I never tasted a Bravo. They thought they had a contract with Coca-Cola distributors, and kids couldn't drink carbonated drinks in California, and Bravo chocolate milk just slide in there and take the market. And then Coke said no. And everything, all their dreams and aspirations went down the toilet, and that was the end of Bravo. No, we made a good move with Apple. We bought Apple stock for $12.50. It's considerably more now, and all that kind of.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, but
all of it. You must have been buying it. You must have been buying it back in the old Centersville days.
It hadn't been cheap. First to work for Apple, you could sign a piece of paper and consign a certain amount of your income every week to buying Apple stock. So I pick up 10 or 20 shares every payday, every payday. And I ended up with a boatload of Apple stock, We had, Pam was much, much better at trading stock than I was. I would consistently pick things like Bravo, and she would consistently pick things like IBM, and I couldn't see what was wrong with my business model, or anything like that. But we lost... when I said in the monologue, in Texas terms, we lost our ass hat and all our cattle. We really did. I mean, really did. It was bad. It was freaking bad. We were counting our money by putting it on a postal scale and weighing it, and we went from that to, do you have the money for the coffee today? That kind of thing. Now we came out of it. We came out of it and are doing fairly well, but most of the people are going to suffer during this initial, and the pandemic is not, folks. Like I said, we're not going to conduct a fearmonger radio show here, but I am going to tell you, hunker down. This thing is going to get worse. As right now, what is it? 66 degrees right here at my table in Texas. It was 80 degrees today at about noon. Okay, it's not 80 degrees in Montana today. Okay, as it gets colder, the virus will proliferate as it gets colder, all right? And people will huddle together, and then here comes Christmas. You haven't seen
that's going to be great, isn't it?
Oh, man, you haven't seen the spike yet. You know what really
got
me?
And then spring break right afterwards, so.
Oh, yeah. What got me was I hear other radio hosts and other stations saying, there is no pandemic, it's not a virus, it's not this, it's not that. 30 miles from where my business partner lives, the morgue trucks have already rolled up and they're filling up as we speak. Okay? And it's not all car wrecks, folks. It's not all car wrecks. People are really dying. Numbers are really going up. And like I said, we will always give you a solution. Sometimes you don't want to hear it. Sometimes you don't want to hear it. And one thing I hate about some other shows is they'll give you this doomsday scenario, and then they'll start screaming, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when they come for you? I'm going to wash my hands. I'm going to stay out of crowds, and I'm going to wear that stupid mask. That's what I'm going to do.
Let me give you some advice. If you come up with some symptoms that are great, so first off, our first piece of advice to you is stay away from COVID. Now, you say, well, how in the heck do I do that? Well, you avoid everybody. You avoid everybody that is possible for you to avoid. And when it's possible, that, you know, and when it's impossible to avoid them, then you wear a mask in the same room with them. If they don't want you to wear a mask in the same room with them, then give some consideration to an alternate person to be around, because that person ought to be just as concerned for their own welfare as they are for yours, and not to mention the welfare of everybody else outside. So, you know, far be it from me to cast aspersions on anybody, you know, for their behavior. But I will say that, you know, this is what I was complaining about Mike Lee about earlier, was, you know, the way he just went completely against the mask. I mean, he absolutely castigated people, you know, especially in Utah. And, you know, he would not allow. Now, this guy's a senator, so he's really got nothing to do with state legislation. But it's surprising how powerful our U.S. senators are in the states from which they hail. And so he pretty much made it impossible for the state of Utah to implement a social distancing and masking set of provisions for those two things until well past March or April. Then he finally had that big party, you know, big wedding party, and everybody came to it, and everybody got the COVID. And about the same time, they had a big rave, a big old rave out in the desert, and everybody got the COVID.
Look at the headlines in the Salt Lake Tribune I told you about today. Kids going back to school. We're going back to school. God bless Joseph Smith. All that kind of nonsense, right?
Yeah, well, we'll see on your way back as you're living back home, Johnny. You know.
Yeah, well, they started testing the kids. Okay, now when you get 15% positive return on COVID tests, you're having a rainy day. Okay, folks, I'm gonna tell you right now, you're having a rainy day. Try 66%. Try that. Try that. Like the woman that lives out in a rural community in Texas, a rural community, corn stalks and hillbillies, all right? Does what she thinks is the right thing, sends the kid to school. Oh, yes, send the kid to school. And the kid comes home and gives the COVID to everybody and the cows, all right?
Kills Uncle Al.
Sin. Huh?
Kills Grandpa and Uncle Al. You know.
Oh, absolutely. Let's do that too. You know, let's do that too. And it becomes a political point, You know, like in all due respect to El Presidente, okay, he didn't wear his mask, and nobody around him wore his mask. You know, they're strong and everything. Well, they're all in the hospital now. Even the cute little blonde. She shouldn't go to the hospital, but she got it. You know, they all went.
Well, I was telling you about how Jennifer and her whole family came down with it. Now they made it through, because I want to. Let me put a pin in that, because I want to go on just briefly say that if you come down with COVID, if you know, let's say your measures to avoid COVID have failed, and you come down with COVID and you're pretty sure you've got it, do not go to your doctor. Go to the emergency room and tell them that your symptoms are much worse than what they are, and tell them you think that tell them you want a pulmonologist. Call your doctor and tell them you want a pulmonologist in there, and tell that pulmonologist you want them to run a SARS protocol on you, because you need that right now. You need it right away. You need it immediately. That's what saved Donald Trump. That's what saved. It's what's going to save Rudy Giuliani. You know, it's what saved everybody. You know, on that team that have gotten the COVID, is they immediately initiate a SARS protocol, and a SARS protocol is a bag drip of antibiotic, along with another bag, which is water, and another bag which is saline solution, and another bag which is a steroid, and then they give you an oral steroid to take the next day, and they give you a Z-Pack, which is anywhere from 1 to 3 antibiotic pills that you're going to take, and you know, over a period of 1 to 3 days, and that'll knock the COVID out. That is that is pretty much a sovereign treatment for COVID. I got COVID, made me very sick. It killed the guy in the bed next to me. My pulmonologist got right on that SARS protocol and saved my life. It saved my life. And so going back to what we were talking about, brought us to that point. My daughter, she carried like 3 masks around with her. She socially distanced plenty. But she knew she was going to get this thing because she had 2 school-age kids. And if you have school-age kids, or if you're associating with anybody that has school-age kids on a frequent basis, you are going to get the COVID. And when you do, I just told you the right thing to do.
That's it. That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It can be beaten. See, now, again, on our show, we will give you optimism and solution. Now, you might not want to take the solution. You know, like we say, wear your mask if you're in a crowd, and you might listen to some politician say, don't do it, or anything. We're listening to the doctors. We're listening to the technicians, the people at Baylor Scott and White Research Foundation, University of Texas, Texas A&M, people like that. We're listening to those. I check now to get the number. You can't get the right numbers. You cannot get the right numbers. You can look on the web all you want. You go to 5 different sites. You get 5 different numbers. I just call the undertakers. It's real simple. Hey, Leon, how's the hammer hanging? Hey, it's too good, my brother. How's it going? Hey, how many COVID you had this week? Oh, man, I had 17 this week. Really? I didn't see that in the newspaper. Yeah, you won't either. See how that works, folks? See how that works? Okay? And even where you eat, I mainly eat at home now. By the way, Ted, I made a tuna salad with crackers tonight. I eat at home. If I eat
eating at home eating at home is the key. I think because our worst omissions or sins rather, the worst sins that we commit are center themselves around going out to eat, going out and having a few beers and some appetizer or something. You are going to wind up in a room full of people where some of them have COVID. That's where you're going to be. It's in a room full of people, some of whom have COVID. And, the risk of you getting an aerosol in that room is very high because it's not like you can see this thing. You can't see it. Your waiter or your waitress might seem very healthy and very attractive. And so they pull their face mask down while they're taking your order, so they can talk back to you about it. No big deal, right? That's no big. Look at. She couldn't possibly have COVID and look like that.
Oh,
so
no, of course not. Well, you know what? The main thing, the experiment I told you about, Ted, and some of you can pull this and some can't because some of them are not smokers. I am a smoker. Okay. Yeah. I don't want to hear it. I'm a smoker. Now, I have a window right here beside me where the sun comes in the late afternoon. And I can sit across the kitchen to the living room, okay? And I can light a single cigarette and smoke it over on that couch and blow it out and everything. And when I'm through smoking that cigarette, I can look at the window with the sunlight filtering through the window, and I can see that smoke hovering in the air, just hanging there all over the living room, all over the kitchen, everything. I'm telling you the truth, folks, and I got Ted here to back me up. A COVID virus is smaller than a grain of cigarette smoke. It can fly too. It can fly too, okay? It can fly too.
It can hang in the air.
And it will make you sick real quick. The only time I have a soft spot for Long John Silver's and any kind of fried chicken. Yeah, I'm from Texas. I'm sorry. But when I break down and say, well, I'm going to get me some chicken, I'm going to go out and pick up something at the window. I'm not going in nowhere. I eat fried chicken from Colonel Sanders, the 5 for 5 or 10 for 10, or I go to Long John Silver's. Okay, the reason being, chicken and fish you drop in hot grease. Okay, And now they put in the law, the Colonel Sanders, they just give you chicken if that's all you want. Now at the Long John, they got to give you the coleslaw and the mashed potato, whatever. Well, I just give that to Minnie, my dog. I don't touch it. I get 5 pieces of fish and 2 chicken planks, and I eat those because they dropped in the grease. Simple. And you can't let folks. We had a family down here that they obeyed all the rules. They wore their masks. They didn't see nobody. They didn't do nothing. They wore their mask in the shower. They were good. And the grandmother, I think, had a birthday. So about 13 of them, well, they went over got to the house, and they gave her a birthday cake. She was like 93 years old or something like that. And every damn one of them got the COVID. Every one. One mistake. One. And it's just like the deniers. I've used 2 examples this week about denials. A denial is like a Republican and a Democrat are in a foxhole, okay? And the Republican said, I'm not worried about that. They're not shooting real bullets. And the Democrat said, I'm keeping my head down. Well, I'm not. I'm going to do what I want to do. And the Democrat says, well, stick your head up and check it out. Okay? That's what we're talking about.
Now, we were talking about I know it sounds like a broken record, so I'm going to quit it, but I bet a lot of people don't think it sounds like a broken record. I think a lot of people think, yeah, well, let's talk about that some more. So I'm going to for just a little bit, and that is I want to go back to the absolute intransigence of Trumpers. Now, I used to think, this is what I used to think after I saw it, because the first time I saw it, remember when you and I went over to that lady's house and she wanted us to help on some kind of a project where they were airing a movie in Iran?
I remember that. The Druid Society or whatever, the Ku Klux Klan.
They were cute. They
made good coffee. It was really weird, man. They had a stateroom we met in, and it had like all mahogany hardwood around it and everything, and they all walked slow. Go ahead, Ted.
Well, they had good whiskey. That's why. I mean, they had bottles and bottles of good whiskey in there. We stuck our head over the foxhole. Go ahead. Yeah, well, I'll say. Well, this was before coronavirus was even a thing. This was before March. This was way back in the game, and it was like in the summertime, and actually it was at Easter, so or close to Easter. So I remember because they wanted to air that movie in Iran during Easter. Pilgrim's Progress. It was animated movie. Right. So anyway, we're outside, and you remember the woman, very attractive woman, lots of energy, the kind of woman that you would say to yourself, man, this is who I want around helping me, if I decide to organize some kind of a daycare center or something like that, because she's detail oriented, good with numbers, and seemed to be very level headed. And then something gets said because you remember how you and I first reacted to that QAnon thing. They threw in some facts that were not facts in order to convince us. Remember that? One of them was the head judge at The Hague was talking about going after QAnon, and so they seem to have a roster of pretty and Billy and I are scratching our heads going, well, how come we never heard of it? But willing to give them credit because they seemed like, they lived in a great big house. It cost a lot of money. It was one of those older houses on the north side that takes a fortune to buy and then fix up and maintain. And he was some kind of operative for the Republican Party, but he was also a mechanic who worked on foreign automobiles. I never saw him work on an automobile once, so I think maybe he was mostly. And remember they had that guy living with them, and I think for sure he was some kind of operative from the Trump camp. Anyway, that you remember him, the the one they said that there was something kind of off about. Don't worry about him. But you and I came to the same conclusion, and that is that he was, that's the kind of dog you send off after a rabbit. When you see a rabbit, you can't catch it. You send that dog out after it, and that's what you and I both thought about him. But I thought to myself, well, after that, I thought to myself, well, I wonder if maybe people on the liberal side don't do the same thing. Do they turn themselves inside out? Now, I can't say I've ever seen it, but it makes me wonder: is that a thing too? Do liberals turn themselves inside out the same way that Trumpers do?
Hold on a second. I gotta Ted, take over for 1 minute. I got a sneezing dog here. I'll come right back. Okay.
All right. Well, I want to let everybody know just how serious a sneezing dog is. If you haven't taken your dog outside in a while and let them do their business, when they sneeze, the business comes out involuntarily. And so it's an emergency.
What happened was, Ted, Minnie just learned a life lesson on the porch and came back in, okay? She learned that you don't lick frogs. She learned that you do not lick a frog, okay?
Yeah, that's a good, that's not a good thing to learn because of the way you got to learn it. I always just took everybody else's word for it, but I guess if you're a dog, gee, I didn't smell that coming,
Yeah, you watch what everybody remembers about the broadcast tonight. What did you hear on Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure? Well, his dog licked a frog, man.
His dog licked a frog.
It's better what you put in the Tea Party Tribune than what that monkey did to that frog.
Yeah, I'm here to tell you that we won't talk about that.
No, we won't talk about that on the air. There might be kids
Bill and I.
on that one.
Bill and I were just talking about how it is that we face things by innovating. We don't try to throw money at things. When Bill and I run up against some kind of resistance, what we try to do is we try to outfox the problem, and so that means, a lot of times it means thinking outside the box and doing stuff that nobody else has done before, and we did that one time. Here's what we did. We thought, well, there's such a thirst on the part of Republicans to debate liberals. Let's give them a liberal to debate. And so I'd put up some kind of an article, and I'd say, and Billy would put the challenge out there. This is open to all takers. Just line up, submit your article, and let's just have it out in the middle of the street. And this worked out pretty well until I really hit my stride. And when I really hit my stride, I threw everything I had into it, and somehow or another, in one of my articles, we wound up with video raping a frog, and Billy just naturally put the link to the video right there in the article, and so the guy who had called me out got to read my rebuttal to his attack on my article, which basically said, the next thing you write is going to get the same treatment as the last thing you wrote, and if you want to see what that is, just click this link. So a lot of people clicked that link that day.
Hey, I'll tell you what. No, hey, it wasn't sex, but it was right up there in the top 5.
It was funny. It was funny.
The Mike Lee we were talking about, the senator, he ran that newspaper that we were in. And before I could say no, they ran that as the top story. Monkey screws a frog.
Yeah. Yeah, we threw a bunch of other politically incorrect stuff in that article, as I remember. It was an atrocity, It really was. It would have offended anybody. There's just nobody. It would have offended Jesus.
We were crazy back then. We started the butcher shop as kind of a notepad, you know. There really wasn't anything to it. And we got up to that level and everything, and we didn't give two craps about what happened. We didn't have no career, you know. We sitting here, la la, you know. So hey,
that sounds like fun.
That idiot up in New York said we couldn't get away with this. Let's run monkey screws a frog. And there it was, knee deep.
Then they starts getting phone calls, you know, and basically it was people laughing their butts off. But you know, there were other people who tended to be more censorious, and you know, it's always surprised everybody that I've met, you know, that I've talked to on separate terms than you. It's always surprised them that there's anything like a liberal that talks back. You know, they don't expect it. They just they're so used to liberals just giving them the field and rising above it and floating away. That, you know, when one of them stands rooted in the ground to the ground in front of them and says, "Okay, let's talk about this. Let's do this. You know, let's get to it." And they find it surprising. And this is where I'm going to tell you, if you want to make somebody mad, take somebody who is wrong about somebody and that keeps insisting that they're right about it, and prove to them that they're wrong about it. Now you have made it an enemy for life. I'm telling you.
Well, I tell you what, I pulled something in my arrogance in Austin. I pulled something that I'm not going to say I was ashamed of, but it was cool. When I give a speech in Austin, which I haven't been able to give for the last year, but when I do it, I always retire under the same oak tree right in front of the South Terrace. And I always attract the attention of UT students and everything, stuff like that. And we argue, talk politics, stuff like that. And I had I guess he was a professor. He was older than the girl. So he come up and he starts hobnobbing and arguing and all that kind of stuff. And he starts telling me how wrong I am about this and that. And I seen Christopher Hitchens pull this, and it was a good line, so I used it. Right now, this is the arrogance that I don't normally have. I'm Bill the Butcher. Okay, I've written like 3 books and all this kind of stuff. I'm Bill, and I know this. I don't admit it, but I know it. You know. And I finally look up at this jackalope, and I looked at him and I said, "Who are you?" What? Who are you? In other words, hey, Mr. Nobody, who are you? You've been running your mouth for 15 minutes. You ain't said nothing. You know, who are you? And all the students started laughing because apparently this guy was a butthole, you know, and he got jacked. He got jacked. And all I would say, all that was on my mind was not politics. Crystal said, when we got through there, we were going to go down to 6th Street and we were going to drink all the scotch at the bar. And that's all I was thinking about. I didn't care if the Chinese invaded us that afternoon, as long as I got to that bar. That was it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I take it you're talking about Austin city limits, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of scotch in that bar. I can tell you for a fact.
Oh yeah, there is. Oh yes. I generally drink until my lips turn numb.
Yeah. Yeah. I had my eyeballs freeze up in that place.
You know, like Puck said, "Ooh boy."
Yeah.
Oh man. But the main thing that we're trying to do here is, and we'll always do on our shows, we're not, the one thing I detest about some of the other shows we hear on the radio, on the internet, is these people paint this doomsday scenario. It's coming. They're going to put nanoparticulates in your skin, and you've been dusted with aluminum dust. And the 5G, oh, God, save us from the 5G. Well, you know, hey, if you catch your ass in the Escalante Desert, 200 miles from Salt Lake City, and your car breaks down, you're going to thank God for 5G, okay? You can take that from me. You're going to thank God for 5G, all right? But 5G, they're going to pull a trigger at 5G, and they're going to turn you into a zombie and everything. And then after that, they never give the people a possible solution. or what can I do to help protect me from this? It's all over. You're meat for the worm. The Illuminati has taken over now, and they've been running the government for 10 years now. And that's why I got in trouble with some of the other radio stations. I'm going to use the S word here. Can I use the S word? Okay. I listen to these jerk-offs talk and everything. I said, oh, see, got a good radio voice. And seems to be fairly enjoyable. He's full of shit. And that's exactly where I leave it, right there. Right there.
Well, son of a gun. You know?
Yeah.
Darn.
Yeah.
Look at there, a talking dog. You know. Who'd have thunk it?
You caught me in mid-beer. I almost choked. Exactly. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
There's a joke in Nashville. There's a joke in Nashville. When you're referring to people who come to Nashville and get in the music business, they think they get all figured out, right? A whole new act and all this. There's a story about two thoroughbred racehorses in retirement, and they're sitting there eating grass and talking. And one says, I was in the Kentucky Derby. I was ahead of the entire pack, and all of a sudden I got a catch in my right leg. And I slowed down, and another horse came ahead of me and won by a nose. And the other horse said, I was in the Preakness. And I was running along, and everything was going good. Everything was wonderful and everything. And I tripped a little on a rock. And like you, another horse came ahead of me, and he won by a very slim margin. I was the second. Well, there's a dog sitting down there beside me and looks up and says, oh, you horses, you ain't worth a flip. You horses, my God. Yeah. I ran in the Memphis dog races. I outran all them other mutts. I even outran that wooden rabbit I was supposed to be chasing. Yeah, what do you think about that? And one horse looks at the other one and says, well, what do you know? A talking dog.
Right. And that's the same kind of consideration, you know, that a lot of this other goob job deserves. Here's what you can count on, folks. Here's some things you can count on. One thing you can count on is that when you're, let's say you're young and vital right now, you're in your 20s, you just had your first child, or maybe you've just got a couple of young children, 2, 3 years old, 4 years old. You know, you're making your way forward in life. When you die, the COVID is going to be all around, just like it is now. It's going to be just like AIDS. It ain't going away. It's still going to be out there,
nope.
And you're still going to be able to get it. You're still going to be able to get it. And like AIDS, the likelihood of you coming down with it is going to diminish in direct proportion to how well dressed and how groomed and articulate the person that you're standing in front of or beside is. You know, the scruffier they are, the more they look like they should be standing out in the corner asking for spare change, the more the greater your likelihood of coming down with the COVID.
That's right. See, and the new normal, folks, the new normal is like this, okay? Everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong with these people. Hope springs eternal, okay? It's hope that maybe one day this thing will be over. We can just all go back to Red Lobster. Well, no. You will never walk into a supermarket and not be aware that other people are breathing your air. You will never, like Ted said, extend a cordial greeting to a homeless person and all that. Look at the monologue when I started the monologue. Normally, in what the old normal, I'm going to take these people in. Maybe one day they'll make a movie about me, how wonderful I was. No, don't do that. It will kill you. It will kill you. If God had not meant them to be victims, he would not give them a ragged shirt, okay? Come on. Get a life. And that will be the new normal is you'll be a lot smarter. A lot smarter. I love whiskey. I swear before God and 5 other old white men, I love whiskey, all right? But here's the deal. I'll run by Specs, which is our local liquor store here. And if I run by it at 10 in the morning when they first open the door and I see no cars, very few people there, I'll jump out, run in real fast, go in there, get a bottle, and come out when there's no bed. If I end up having to do something and I don't get out there till noon and the line is out the door, well, it's beer today because I'm not going in that store. It's not going to happen. I know it's not going to do it. That's stupid. That's stupid. Go in there. You know they're in there. You got 100 people in the store shopping. 15% positivity rate. That means there's 15 of them got the corona right there. And let's admit it, folks, they're in there buying whiskey for some reason, all right? They're either staunch alcoholic or they're sick. So I just don't go in.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that if your lifestyle makes you vulnerable to COVID, then you're in trouble. You need to change your lifestyle. Yeah. And I'm urging you to change your lifestyle because just being aware of it and trying to take precautions inside your current lifestyle is probably not going to work. And now why am I so what if you get to COVID, especially if you're a young person? So what? Well, like I said, my daughter and her family came down with it. So that was 4 people right there. 2 of them were school-age children. They are coming through it. They're not past it, but they're within a few days of they're within like 3 or 4 days of the end of their quarantine process. But I expect, given my experience with the COVID, that the symptoms will continue to reach out and touch them, for a period of about 4 or 5 months, at least 4 or 5 months. And another thing is this, and that is that, 2 things really. One of them is we don't know. This is what we're doing with this vaccine is a bad thing. See, we're characterizing this vaccine as being the end all. In other words, we can't possibly save our economy without that vaccine. Now, I defy that claim. I don't believe that to be true. I think it's possible for us to switch to a different kind of economy, that is not based on restaurants and eating out. I think that restaurants and eating out is something that should be curtailed. We ought to roll that back. We ought to turn more of that food that's going into the fast food supply chain and turn it into our grocery stores and maybe bring down the price of food a little bit because it's gotten kind of high,
Exactly.
And
I'm gonna out you. I'm gonna out you just a little bit. We have a sandwich down here called the Sloskies. If you're not in Texas, you don't know what that is. Don't look it up.
Okay.
But it's the best.
The picture won't do you no good.
Right. It's the best sandwich in the country. All right. And Ted, he believes so much in what he just said. He went and bought a Sloskies. Now he's a clinical psychologist, so write that down. He brings that thing home and he psychoanalyzes it. And he come over. We was meeting on what we're going to raise it. Hey man, I can make a Sloskies at the house now.
Right. I didn't want to be frosculous, It's the bread that you can't duplicate. You simply can't duplicate the bread. Yeah. That's all there is to it. It's like Subway used to be before they changed their bread. What I thought was odd was that as soon as people started going in asking to buy just bread from Safeway, from Subway, Subway quit selling, changed to a different kind of bread that was a whole bunch crappier. It was a whole bunch worse. I cut this off at the knees. You want to buy my bread? Sure.
I ain't saying there ain't no connection, man. I ain't saying that. But you notice about the time old Jerry got caught with that little girl, man, they switched everything up at that Subway, man. That fat guy did something with the cook that was wrong. The baker. That's all that gets me. I wish to God you hand me a black Subway card with unlimited credit and I never have to pay it back. Fly me around the country, paying me thousands of dollars to say how good the Subway is and everything. And this idiot just had to date a little girl. Just had to do it. Jesus Christ. Yeah. Man, if they told me, well, we're going to go ahead and make you the representative for all of the Subways, and all you got to do is become celibate and shave your head and wear a pink gown. Show me the store and give me some underwear.
Well, it had to be Brian's daughter, so it had to be that guy from Catch a Pedophile's Daughter. Well, actually, I don't think that's true, but it would make it a lot funnier if it was true. I think I don't know, Billy. I just feel that the aspect of civil war. There's a lot of different ways we can fight a civil war. We can fight one the way that we did before, but probably what you're looking at is more of a. I'll tell you something. Americans make lousy terrorists. They really do. They make crappy terrorists. For one thing, Americans are afraid to die. I've noticed this about just about all the people that I know in this country have this morbid fear of dying. And I'll say, you're 92. I don't understand what's the. Well, I'm going to be this old. You're going to die, and I'm thinking, I'm only 68. I'm going to welcome death when it comes. I'm on the ask it in and ask it. You want a cup of coffee or?
I am so screwed. My family traditionally lives over 100, and that's no lie, folks. My uncle Virgil died. He was 102 years old. Me and my brother went over to the funeral home in Shreveport, Louisiana, and we went in the funeral home, and his two older sisters were sitting there, sitting with the body. I walked over and told Aunt Odie Mae and Aunt Gertrude, I'm sure sorry to hear about Uncle Virgil. I couldn't believe he's gone. And he looked up at me in true Southern Baptist fashion, and he said, "It was drinking and killing and smoking what killed him." And I'm thinking, he's 102. What the hell did you expect?
Yeah.
God.
It probably killed all the germs that would have killed him beforehand. So my question is this: is Biden coming for our guns?
You want my opinion?
Yeah.
No, because anytime, now here's the thing. Here's the only thing. I don't care what you hear out there in the sticks and all the speeches, and Kamala Harris can tell you everybody she's Irish. I don't give a damn. The Republicans and the Democrats in Congress will never nullify the Second Amendment because they want to keep getting reelected. And that's the death knell. That is the death knell. Did you hear? We got a congresswoman from Dallas. I don't know. I just read it, so I don't know her name. You want to hear what this idiot said yesterday? This idiot. She submitted a bill to Congress. Okay, Congress. She wants to take away our castle doctrine in Texas because she said, and I quote to you, when a person breaks in, they don't want to hurt you. They're just trying to provide for their family, and they probably need that money or that food more than you do. Provide for them, and they will be eternally grateful. I
understand
I sure hope she's pretty because I know she's dumb.
I understand that most of the sharks that bite people think they're seals too, but I don't. I don't think that makes any difference when you get bit. Well, I'm not too worried about it, mate. I get along all right without the old egg, and she thought I was a seal anyway. So no bad feelings there, no worries.
Oh, man. Funny
hell with that.
Funny meme of the week. Me and Ted.
I want to be like that old man on Jaws.
Me and Ted found a meme this week. I'll just have to describe it to you and try to make it, so the kids can understand it. But it showed a guy jumping into the ocean, jumping into the water, and he's got his shorts on, bathing suit and everything, and put it mildly, it's very, very obvious that he was a man, right? And right in front of him, there's this dog jumping, a German Shepherd, mind you, jumping in the air with his mouth wide open about 3 inches from this guy's member. And the guy's going, yippee, 2020 is always over. And the dog has a little sweater on that says 2021.
Yeah. We're going to put it in this nonsense right now.
I laughed about that so hard, I cried, And the dog was at least 6 inches off the ground, about to fly the bite.
Yeah, yeah. It's fixing to put the legend.
I'm laughing so hard right now. I'm drooling.
About to put the legendary bite down on the virtual show. So.
Oh God. Hey Ted. Now, what do you think? Now, you and I both have practically the same exact feeling about this vaccine. And folks, here's our belief about vaccine. They're going to take two groups first. First responders and people in nursing homes. That is the perfect laboratory control. You got people that are super healthy, okay, and you got people that got one foot in the grave and the other on a banana peel, and they're going to
and they're brave, and they're brave. If nobody else in the room that they got that person out of would walk into a burning building to get you out, if you were trapped in there.
No,
they would.
No.
So they're also brave.
Our belief is at the butcher shop. It's real simple. You give it 90 days and everything. You give it 90 days and see how it's coming out. And one or two things or both is going to happen. It's either going to work, and we're going to get a kind of herd immunity, or the vaccine will simply work. Period. But at any rate, after 90 days, enough people will have taken the vaccine, or it will break the back of the pandemic because enough people will have some kind of immunity. I have never taken a flu vaccine in my life. I can catch the flu all by myself, okay? And I'm not going to take this thing for that reason, not because I don't think it's safe or I'm not going to do it. I don't go around with anybody. I don't have anybody hanging around. I got a dog out there that's trying to spit that frog out right now, but that's about it. When you see the numbers turn around, now I'll tell you what's going to scare you. What's going to scare you is they start applying this vaccine, and you give it 30, 60, 90 days, and the numbers keep going up. Might want to reconsider and start rethinking that mask.
Or suddenly something changes. See, that's the whole thing. What's wrong about the way we're going about this is that we're applying too much of it to the population too quickly, and we're gonna. I guarantee you, we're gonna call that good inside of 6 months. If nobody develops any serious illnesses as a result of this, they'll take a butter knife and smooth over the allergy thing, but they're going to give this thing 6 months tops, and then they're going to run it out there, and about 8 to 10 months into a trial run is typically where you start running into things like, well, if you had the measles when you were a kid and you take this vaccine, you're gonna get a set of shingles on every inch of your body.
Oh yeah. Did you have the mumps when you were a child? Why? Yes, I did. Why? Well, that's why your balls are the size of tennis balls right now.
Right. Let me ask you. You've been thinking a lot about gladiator movies lately.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen of the radio audience, do you notice how craftily we dodge those issues, and the kiddos cannot understand what we're really talking about? Okay, go ahead.
That's just saying, when it comes to side effects, there's no telling,
Oh God! Oh Jesus! Well, the one thing, I don't have a private life unless it's with the dog, and everything. But the thing was,
no, we know all about that too.
Yeah, if I was still in my prime, everything, I would be in a hell of a mess. You can't go to a bar and not get sick, and if you go to the bar and you pick a chick up, you don't want to breathe her breath. You don't want to breathe her breath. I mean, stay 6 feet apart. Stay 6 feet apart. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm not that well hung. Okay, so I'm just screwed right there.
Well, the funniest thing that I have heard was a guy over at your house that took up with Leslie because he knew that she didn't have COVID, and so she's one of those. She belongs to these big Facebook group sites,
Yeah.
And she has sex with everybody on the site, and so this guy was telling me Yeah, I decided I'd hook up with her because I know she hadn't got the COVID. And I said, well, how'd that work out for you? And he said, well, not too good. I got syphilis. So, I was like, okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I don't know why I got all these sores on my lips.
does that make you lose your sense of taste too? I mean, I don't know. I've never had it before, so.
No, I've dodged that. I pretty well dodged that my whole life. I don't know where the STD clinic is, and I'm not planning on finding out anytime soon. You know, woo boy, oh man. But you got people that I mean, they're gonna start shutting these game rooms down like at 9 o'clock and
they need to do that. They got to do that. I'm with you.
Yeah, it really is. It really, because those I put that in the monologue, but that's one of the key parts of the monologue, and I'm telling people in the neighborhood, this is your problem. This is your problem. Prostitution, drug use, drug selling, drug buying, people hanging together, rubbing shoulders, all this. We need to shut this down. Shut it down now, because these people are there breeding disease, and then they don't have anything to eat. They don't have any money or anything like that. So they come out of the game room over here, the one we got next to us, and they go walking through Turtle Bend, you know, and they got to steal something. You know, and this is where we get into all these discussions about freedom and the First Amendment and this and that. To hell with that. Don't worry about that. When we stop counting bodies every morning over breakfast, then we'll start worrying about their damn rights, okay? You know, you have the right to remain silent, so why don't you shut the hell up, you know? God.
Well, you know, it sure makes you rethink your whole the whole thing around Trayvon Martin, because and the reason I say that is not because I think that guy had any right to shoot him. I don't. I think that him walking around looking for trouble in his neighborhood was a bad idea with a gun. But that having been said, I now better understand what he and the people in his neighborhood were going through.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Ted, excellent point. Excellent point. I've got a bunch of old people in this neighborhood that are scared to death. And they, you know, what do we do? And I try not to talk, you know, violence. I try not to tell them what we found out up in the Escalante. You know,
send an email to the chief of police and to the chief of patrol asking for additional patrol units in your area so that police visibility is boosted in your area. That's what's needed.
Mm-hmm. It's really easy to do, too. My son Michael showed me, like, if you have an area that's having a problem and you're going to go from one side of your patrol to the other side of your patrol and you got a trouble area, on the way to get your donut, just drive through that area. Let them see the police car. That's all you got to do. You know, they never know when that police car is going to come around that corner. And believe me, cops are weird, man.
Oh, yeah.
Cops
are weird.
Over there where you're at. Cops can see your inspection sticker at 500 yards. You know, you can't even see.
And they say weird things to you, like when we were going up to get a Schlotsky sandwich that time, and somebody had a shootout in the street, and we're driving up on it, and the cop stops us, and Billy says, "Well, what's going on up ahead of us?" And the guy says, "Oh, some dumbass got his ass shot off." And Billy said, "Really?" And he said, "Yeah, they had a shootout in the middle of the street. You're too late. You know, somebody already got here and got beat to getting killed. So move on." Sure. No problem.
Somebody talking when they should have been looking.
Yeah, somebody got killed before you.
We have shootouts. Hey, man, I ain't going to lie to you people up north. We have shootouts in Texas. About a year ago, we had two old men about 2 blocks from my house. They had an old-fashioned gunfight over a dog, and one of them got killed. You know, and when I got
it's an amazing thing too, because they fired like 15 shots between the two of them. You know?
Yeah. And I was going around the corner to go get me some beer and cigarettes, crowds of people, cops and everything. And, hey, man, what happened? Oh, man, they had a freaking gunfight, man. Hey, whoa. And these guys, I mean, they went out there in their walking sticks and blazed it out.
Yeah, I like what the news anchor said when he said, guess it's a good thing the dog was inside, or maybe they would have shot the dog too.
The dog.
Yeah.
God. Oh, man.
If I can't have you, nobody can. You know, I mean, I hear many going at it there. For you guys who don't know this, Billy's dog is roughly the size of a small locomotive, and and it is all teeth and claws and bad attitude. It thinks it's playing when it comes up and grabs you by the neck and runs you out in the backyard and runs you around the yard a couple of times and then beats you up and down on the patio, throws you into a chair. You know, you guys just had fun.
Mini something else. I got a big old cut on a couple of cuts on my hand. She took it upon herself the other night. She wanted to box, right? Get on her hind legs and swing her paws at me.
But she can hurt you like that, buddy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I told her,
she got like a hook with claws.
Who told you this was a damn knife fight, Minnie? Come on.
Her paws are the size of Clydesdale hooves with claws on them. You know, I'll bet if you were to pull one of her legs off, you could use that arm. You could use that arm and that foot as an effective weapon, a very effective weapon. I bet I could knock somebody out with that. Yeah. Don't fight with that dog, man. Yeah, just playing with me. Just playing with me. That dog put more cuts on me than I think any single animal's ever put on me. Just playing. just having a good time, old fella. You know? Just having a good time. Yeah.
Oh,
man.
Yeah. But it's
wow.
We have breezed through this show. We got about 3 minutes before the 15-minute cutoff, and we've been jabbering and doing real good and everything. It's really nice. So I hope everybody's enjoyed it. And listen, folks, we work hard at not alarming our audience. We really do. That's one of our the main things we think about. When we bring up hard stuff like we did tonight, we try to bring up and not fake stuff. And we'll straddle both sides of the issue. And when we tell you it's bad and it's coming, we'll always come back with, and this is what you can do about it. This is what
the main thing I think, Billy, is that this is the only place that I know of where they can come and listen to a conservative who believes in unions and the 14th Amendment, and a liberal who owns more guns than a lot of gun shops have, and has basically anti-abortion sentiments. You know, this is the only place. This is the only place you can come and hear those things. You know.
Well, that's what I like. I told somebody one time. He was a Democrat and he was pro-life or pro-choice. And I said, you have any grandchildren? No. And everything. Well, you daughter, you have, and she just got married. And she's going to have a child one day, right? Yeah. So I want to ask you this: when she's pregnant and they do the little ultrasound and it's a boy and everything, it's your first grandson, and she wants to abort it. Okay, now I want to ask your opinion on abortion again, real fast.
Well, I think you say those things, but there are people out there listening to this right now that would tell you that they've been in that very same situation and there was nothing they could do to alter the situation that they wanted to, but they couldn't.
I'm not saying that they could do anything. I'm saying, what would you think? How would your opinion be? Nothing wrong with the kid. It wasn't. she's getting her law degree, and she's not quite ready for a child yet.
Well, there are people who are able to look at other human lives the same way that the rest of us might look at confetti or funny money, counterfeit money, or something else that has no value, or perhaps is a troublesome item to have around. But not many. I don't think there are many human beings that are capable. I think that if you ask the most human beings, that this is the most you'll ever get from me out of it. Where I split, this is really where the coin splits into heads and tails for me, and that is that I understand not wanting your child to have an abortion, or your wife. Or your sister to have an abortion. I understand that, but I also know that it's not your choice. It's not. It isn't you that is going to make that decision. And so what you've got to do is you've got to search your heart, and you better do it pretty quick too before your feelings form up around this, and find a way to live with this that doesn't cost you the relationship with said loved one.
Right, exactly. Well, we got to give the lady a chance to set up the next show. Hope you people have enjoyed the show tonight, and we will see you next week, and hopefully we'll be as on point as we were tonight and everything. Wear your mask. Don't kiss every girl on the street corner, and I hope everybody stays healthy and well and happy and wise. Be careful at Christmas, and God bless. Good night.
Good night.